Welcome back, Psychology 2301 students. It is Dr. Medley again. We are now on to Chapter 2, which focuses on research methods, and conducting successful research. So as we stated in Chapter 1, research is foundational to the actual practice of psychology. Psychologists have to verify that their techniques or their practices are being effective for the purpose that they are being used for, and conducting research helps them to evaluate the techniques for quality assurance. There are a variety of techniques out there that psychologists can use to evaluate the effectiveness of their practices. So think back to your study of the scientific method in high school or other classes you've taken. Chapter 2 will talk about the use of the scientific method to guide actual psychological research. Now, it's important to know the difference between correlational and experimental research methods, and that's explained in this next chapter. When should a person use a correlational method and why? When should a person use an experimental method instead and why? Right, the chapter will review all of the different formats and testing methods used, explaining what works best under certain circumstances so that you have a clearer understanding of the role that research plays in the field of psychology. And it does play a role in the field throughout whatever subfield that you're talking about, really. Begin to think about a research question that you might want to investigate that is psychologically related. What methods would you use to test that particular question out? What instruments or assessments, right, would you use to test out that theory that you have about some psychological issue? Now, when you're conducting research, it is also important to have the safety of the participants as your first priority. Your book discusses issues that researchers have to keep in mind when conducting research using human subjects. Think about it. If you were a subject in a study, regardless of what the topic was, what rights would you want, right? What safety measures would you want the researchers to take on your behalf? Make sure to think about the rationale between all of the rights that research participants have as you read through that portion of Chapter 2 in your text. Now, much of what the book discusses for the rest of this semester will be human research questions. However, animal research has been important to the field of psychology as well. And you will see that when we begin to discuss things like conditioning, human attachment, animals have been used in a variety of subject areas when it comes to psychological research. Now, what are your thoughts about having animals as test subjects? And do you think animals should be afforded the same rights as humans? Something to think about, right? As you learn more about research and how it works, you will hopefully begin to use that knowledge to become a wiser research consumer. Well, what does that mean? Chapter 2 will talk a little bit about that as well, how you can begin to assess and evaluate information using psychological methods and research methods to evaluate the accuracy of information, the rational basis of various types of information that you may come across, and other formats of information. So you will see that understanding research is not just important for the people conducting the research. Becoming research savvy will help you think more critically about a variety of topics and issues, whether you're talking about human development in general, politics, organizational and professional issues in the workplace, community issues, right, in the world around you. You may begin to read the newspaper or an article online, magazine articles, in a more in-depth fashion, right, as you begin to think about some of these assessment methods. You may begin to question stories that you hear on the evening news about this particular psychological or psychotropic drug or that certain treatment for depression or other issues. Hopefully you will begin to ask questions about your own beliefs and values and really testing out some of those things, right? So before we get too deep with some of these topics, go ahead, review chapter 2, and definitely reach out if you have any questions or concerns. All right, see you soon.